Hey everyone, that frickin' metal guy here, and I'm here with some information about this video. This is an interview of a band called Sweet Crystal. They are a Christian rock band, and this video was originally supposed to be a Skype. We Skyped, we talked over Skype. It was supposed to be a video where you can see our faces, but the recording thing I was using really chopped up the video, so it looked. And then you talked for a little bit, then you moved, and you wouldn't be able to enjoy it as much as you could. So I made it into a audio sound, so you'll hear it. There'll be pictures there. There'll be a song in the beginning and the song in the end. I would have done more editing to it. I would have had more songs, but we were going close to 25 minutes, and this is going to add more onto it, obviously. But this is a really unique band. They started in 1974. They have 3 albums, and they're doing pretty good for themselves according to the interview. And you should definitely give them a look. Definitely check them out. And I hope you guys enjoy this interview. I hope you guys enjoy all the videos that I'm going to be bringing to you in the future. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate all of the people. I'm up to about 27 subscribers, so I'm sort of a big deal now. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. All right, keep rocking. All right, let me get to some of these questions here.
Absolutely, man.
So the band started in the 70s, right?
Yeah, we were very young, right out of high school, as a matter of fact. The 3 founding guys in Sweet Crystal, myself on keyboards, Bill Blatter on guitars, and Steve Weezer on drums, met right out of high school. We all had gone off to college, but we had mutual friends who introduced us, and that was 73, 74. And when we first met up with each other and started jamming, we realized that the 3 of us had the exact same musical taste, the exact same background in playing all through high school, and it just clicked. And here we are almost, 4 decades later, and we're still getting together every week and still putting out new songs and playing live, although nowhere near what we used to do back in the 70s and 80s. We spent a lot of those years touring, doing the bar scene and opening up for some pretty cool bands, and but we were young, and you can afford physically to do that when you're young.
So how has the band stuck together? What have you guys done to make the band still playing today?
I'll tell you, Dave, I consider all the guys in the band a blessing to me. I mean, what's interesting is that we're a total democratic organization, which means nobody has more say than anybody else. But what's interesting is the fact that everybody comes from the same background. We're all, if you know Sweet Crystal now, you know we're a Christian progressive rock band.
Yeah.
We didn't start out that way. We started out with stars in our eyes and, hoping to make it big and playing a lot of music that was probably more detrimental to ourselves than what we're doing now. But because we all grew up with the same influences, which is basically European English progressive rock, bands like Yes and Pink Floyd, and some rather esoteric bands like Atomic Rooster and bands that a lot of people wouldn't normally know. We just found that musically we were a match, and we just found that our personalities were a match. There's never been any major fights in the band. We've never broken up. We've never actually really disagreed on anything except maybe what to order in when we were recording, and other than that, I think it's rare. I don't think there's a lot of bands that have had the longevity that we have that still basically like each other. We respect each other. I personally think everybody in the band is a better musician than I am, and I don't know how they feel about me, but as the lead singer and the keyboard player, they pretty much let me take the lead on new songs, but I just kind of flesh it out, turn it over to my guitar player, and he's the one who turns it into what I consider better music than what I come up with. So, and Steve, drummer, just sits and plays whatever we need him to play. He's always there, always on time, and I think it's pretty unique. And like I said, I I think it's a blessing to me to have this core group of guys still together after so long.
Yeah, you don't really see that often of a lot of bands.
Not in a lot of bands, not in a lot of marriages, not in a lot of friendships, not in a lot of companies. So,
Well, keep it on the music side. How does Power and Glory differ from your new album Three, like music wise, and sort of how you approach the albums?
well, we were certainly younger back then. Power and Glory, back in those days, we had two guitar players, bass player, myself, and Steve on drums. We also had a gentleman by the name of Henry Weck, who is the original drummer from Brownsville Station, and you probably know him from Smoking in the Boys Room fame. He was the producer of the first thing we put out, Power and Glory. We did it at his studio, and basically the difference in our music back then, besides probably not being as progressive, it might have been a little more straight ahead rock songs, like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, that kind of writing. The songs were shorter. We'd worked with another gentleman from Motown who kind of sculpted our writing to go from our 13-minute opuses that we were writing back in the 70s to a 3-minute song that actually made musical sense and maybe more radio friendly, although that was never really a goal of ours, was to be on the radio. Now, Three, on the other hand, because we now have, as you can see behind me, all this technology, which is at our beck and call, Three took a lot longer to make because we have so many more choices now with what we want to use, what we want to play. And I myself am very prone to sit in the studio for hours on a time, agonizing over the perfect string sound. I have 128 different strings I could bring in. Which one do I use? And actually, I think the technology has slowed us down a little bit because there's such a huge scope and arsenal of sounds we can use. That being said, I think the songs are better. We progressed in our ability to play. Of course, the recording aspect of what we do is so much better now than the analog tape back in the 80s. But it's kind of funny because people nowadays are trying to get that analog tape sound back in their digital workstations by buying analog plugins. So it's a full circle. So the music back then, I think, was a little more straightforward. I think the music today is a little bit more progressive, but I think there's a lot more. Of course, there's a lot more meaning to the lyrics nowadays. I've developed as a lyricist, and I try to tell a better story now. And most of the songs nowadays are all about our struggles, where we've come from, where we are today, and we hope that it relates to the listener to see that, hey, you know what, we understand what you're going through. We've been through it. We made it through it. I think we have a way to help you get through yours.
Speaking of which, why did it take so long to release all of these albums?
What, it's what, you mean one every 10 years?
Yeah.
One a decade. I mean, so that means the next one comes out, I'm not even going to pretend how old I'm going to be right then. You know what, I think that the main reason is between Power and Glory and Still Standing, we got out of the live music shows. Toward the end of the 80s, there weren't a lot of places to play as an original band. It became more, I'm not going to say disco, but it became more recorded karaoke type places, and they just used DJs. They didn't need live bands. And so we saw kind of the writing on the wall that there wasn't anywhere for us to go. We've never had like a big label behind us. We've never had management behind us. It's always just been us. So we didn't know what the next step would be. So we took the time off of playing live. A couple of guys went back and got their degrees in school. I started working in the audio industry as a live sound technician. We built the first studio down in outside of Detroit, and just started doing more music for TV projects, cable things. Started dabbling in music and movie soundtracks, and so that's what we started doing. So we kind of stopped playing live, but we never stopped recording. And so working for the next 10 years, we finally realized that we had enough new material to put Still Standing out, but we weren't playing out, so we just put it out just to see what happens. And so that took 10 years. 4 or 5 years after that, Steve finally came back in the band full time because he had retired from his other at Chrysler and decided he wanted to get back playing. So all of a sudden, we had the three of us back together and started working on the 3 CD, saying, what the heck, let's try this. And 10 years later, there it is. I don't know why it took so long, man. I have no idea.
You recently re-released an album on the internet. What album was it? It was
Well, Power and Glory came back out. That was from 1985.
Uh-huh.
And what's interesting is we lost the original master tapes. They actually burned down in the place that was duplicating our stuff over in Philadelphia. So we assumed that was the end of it. I have some cassettes, and I started taking the music off the cassettes, and that didn't work. So I said, it's kind of, I thought we were done. But then Henry Wack, the man I mentioned earlier, found a master tape in his garage down south where he had moved of alternate mixes of that CD. So we pulled it out, and I found a place in New York to go and, I mean, this tape had been sitting in a garage for 20 years. It had been sitting next to a speaker. And if you know anything about magnets in a speaker, it had demagnetized part of the tracks. And so it took a lot of time and a lot of money with this gentleman out named Steve Meyer out in New York to resurrect, to get the music off that tape. He had to bake it in an oven. I forget all the stuff you jump through to try to get that just to play one or two more times. He pulled it out, and because of digital technology, he was able to recreate the one side of the stereo mix. I mean, an audiophile will hear the difference. You actually can tell where some of the degradation is.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, we were actually able to resurrect that CD, which is kind of why it's called Power and Glory Resurrected Masters, because that's exactly what it was. And so because of that being re-released, we are actually selling in more CDs of that CD across the world than any of our other CDs. It's I'm not saying huge, but it amazes me the amount of people in Japan that buy that. They apparently have a great love for 80s music in Japan, and that CD has gotten us more sales than any of the stuff we put out now. So it makes me think, well, should we go back and do that? Or, nah, it's just kind of fun. Just a fun little side note to our career.
So going back to your whole career, when was the first time you thought the band was successful?
Man, you know what? I don't even know if we're successful today. I mean, that's a great question, but I don't know if we are successful. We've had some very cool milestones.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s, there was a magazine based out of Detroit called Cream Magazine. It was huge for a decade. And one of the contests that they put out was, trying to find new unsigned, so you think you want to be a rock and roll star is what it was called. And out of 50,000 bands that entered that thing, we came in third in the nation. And this was back in the 70s. So that was the first time we just kind of went, wow, I think we got it. And then we'd start opening up for some cool bands like Bob Seger and Steppenwolf and Foghat and all these bands that I kind of lovingly refer to as dinosaur bands, because of how long they've been around. But I don't know what that makes us, kind of pre-Cambrian age. So we did that. Those were kind of cool. But I think what really made us sit up and take notice that we had been effective in our music and message, we were invited to play a showcase down in Nashville, maybe 2002, 2003. We just went down. It was a Christian music organization. We went down and played one set down there, had fun. And on the last day of the conference, they were giving out these awards that they gave out every year. It's called the Christian Independent Alliance. They're kind of like independent Grammy things.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they called our name, and they gave us this award called the Perseverance Award, which means we've never stopped. But they had a 4-minute video of our careers that they played for this thing that we knew absolutely nothing about. And we got up and got this award, and we just kind of went, that's amazing. Somebody's actually paid attention to us over all these years. So that was a highlight. Because of that, we got signed to this Take Music Group, the label we're at now. Because of that, we found a way to release free. And the last 2 years, we've won awards here in Detroit. They have something called the Detroit Music Awards, 20 years. This will be the 21st year. And the last 2 years in a row, the band has won Outstanding Gospel Christian Act 2 years in a row. And normally that goes to people like Aretha Franklin, the Winans, Kurt Franklin, some real mainstays in the gospel Christian arena. And here we are, 40 years into our career, and all of a sudden we won 2 years in a row. And I think it looks like we're nominated again this year. So that, to me, I guess is a success. More than that, it just means that we're maybe reaching people with the message that we have, and that's kind of who we want to be. It's not about us anymore. We don't have stars in our eyes anymore, but basically, if we can release a song that somebody will like and it will maybe give them a little bit of hope, inspiration, then that's what I think is a success is for Sweet Crystal. Now, if they want to shower us with money, I'm not going to say no.
Well, since you're getting some more success, so should we expect a new album sooner than 10 years?
Yes, we've already committed to that. We all decided we needed it sooner than later. Um, I've noticed currently that a lot of bands are not waiting to release full CDs. They're putting out either singles or they're putting out something called EP, which is kind of funny because that stands for extended play, and that had to do back with the 70s when you did more than a 45, and kids today don't even know what a 45 is. But 4 and 6 song projects. And so we already have 6 songs in the works that we've been working on. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking maybe that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk with Tape, the label, and see if that'd be something they'd be interested in. Also, we put out 1 single last year on CD Baby. We had a song in a motion picture soundtrack called War Flowers was the name of the movie with Christina Ricci, Tom Berenger. It was a Civil War flick. And we had a song in the ending credits. So we put that out just kind of independently. It's out there on CD Baby if people are interested. It's a little different for us. It's kind of a lullaby, which is interesting. But because of that and working on some of these other movie soundtracks, we now realize we have at least 6 songs that are ready to roll. So we'll take a look at this. We're hoping to do something as early as this summer because we have enough stuff to do a 6-song EP. If that's what Tate likes and it looks feasible, we'll put that out. We just got to figure out what to call it now. My brother wants to call it Quadra and put 4 songs on it, and it's our 4th release, so that sounds kind of cool. It might be Sweet Crystal Quadra, but I don't know. But that's so yeah, it will not be 10 years. You can bet on that. We got a new guy. We got a bass player now. We haven't had a bass player in 2 decades. You know, it's recording wise, Billy will do the bass, or I'll sequence it in live. We just don't use one. But Marty has come into the fold and told us he was going to be our bass player, and we had him come over to a rehearsal, and he actually knew more of our songs than we knew, which was the first time that has ever happened. And so we're just starting to put together some new live shows, and it'll be the first time in 20 years we've had a 4th guy on stage. I just got to figure out where you put him, because we're so used to our little threesome right here.
Yeah. So when you go into the recording studio, what is their guys' like writing process? How do you come up with your songs?
2 different ways. Either it's usually me will come up with an idea that I've been working on, and I'll present it to the guys and we'll play with it. Or every time we get together, I throw on a recordable CD and we jam and we just play. And because we've played together for so long, we have a lot of the same directions and ideas, and we know where the other guys are going to go. And so we end up recording an hour worth of brand new ideas almost every time we get together. I have a stack over here of probably close to 75 burned CDs of just ideas. And a lot of the 3 songs came from going back through those and going, you know what, this lick works with this lick. And so then that's a little bit different. So those we create together by just the jams. The rest of them are either lyrics that I've come up with in a melody line, and I present it to the guys, and we try different versions, fast, slow, up-tempo, whatever, until something sounds good. And then basically, because we rehearse here in the studio, I've got it set up so everybody, I could just hit record, set up a template in either of the computer systems, and we just play to it. And then I can go back and listen to it and start rearranging parts until I like what I hear. And then the guys will come in one at a time and we'll put their actual tracks down. We mix everything here. I don't master because that's an art in itself, so I will always send our tracks out to be mastered by somebody better than me. And I don't even know if it's always a good idea to do all the mixing yourself, but you know what? We have the capability and we have it here. And it'd be nice if somebody like Alan Parsons came along and heard our stuff and said, I could take your stuff from kind of cool to really great. But, if that happens, that would be ideal for us. But in the meantime, we've been blessed with a lot of toys, and so we just keep putting it out ourselves. So it works out pretty well.
I just got this question that popped in my head. If you had a time machine to go back in time and tell yourself one thing about your music career, what would you tell yourself?
Wow. Interesting. What would I tell myself? I would tell myself, don't be discouraged. The bar scene can be grueling. And it was tough playing 5-6 nights a week, 4 sets a night. And it was very tough. And I have to say, the band never got into heavy drug or drinks, which is killer. So I would just say, stay the course. What you're doing is right. I would probably say, don't wait 10 years to do a CD, but life is. You know what? I don't think I would change anything at all. I really don't. There's nothing negative that's happened to us that I'd like to go back and go, watch out for this. because we've always stayed true to who we are, and because we're still together. I just think it shows there's a professionalism and a genuine friendship and love between the guys in the band. So I just, more than anything, just encourage my younger self to keep going, because it has gotten better. It's gotten a lot better. Well, maybe I would tell me don't wear the freaking leopard spandex pants in the 80s. I say you may want to avoid that because photographs live forever. But other than that, I think everything was cool.
Is there a album that's coming out in 2013 that you're looking to listen to, or the most anticipating album that you're?
I'll tell you what, who I don't know if you're aware of a man by the name of Neil Morse. He was with Spock's Beard. If you've never
Oh
heard of
yeah,
him,
yeah.
Spock's stuff, but his solo stuff and his new band with the Momentum Project, they have a promo video out on YouTube that you just need to go see it. I think I've linked to it on my Facebook page. But these guys are just the most amazing players, and he is such a prolific writer. I love his voice. I love his production value. Everything about Neil, I've never heard a clunker from him, and it just is very depressing to people like me who have to work so hard. But that's what I'm looking forward to. He's doing a live show, and when the next album comes out. So the Momentum stuff by Neil Morris, that is huge. So that is who inspires me to just keep going, because they're just awesome players and awesome music.
Do you like Black Sabbath?
I do. And not only the Odyssey stuff. I mean, we played Sabbath when we started out. Like I said, we didn't start out as a Christian band. We did a lot of Pink Floyd and Styx and stuff that had keyboards. But we did a lot of Queen. We did Sabbath, and my favorite Sabbath was the Ronnie James Dio era.
Oh yeah.
Neon Nights and Heaven and Hell. Those were staples in our sets. And Ronnie James, God rest him, he had the ultimate rock and roll voice. Him and David Coverdale, from Whitesnake and Deep Purple fame. Those are great people, and you cannot. Maybe you didn't like some of the messages that the original Black Sabbath was, but they came out with a sound that was so in your face and so heavy. I mean, they helped define metal. So how can you say? And here he is. He's still playing.
Well, Black Sabbath is coming out with a new album.
What's that?
Black Sabbath is coming out with a new album.
I had not heard that. No.
Yeah, they're Ozzy, Geezer, and Tony Iommi. Bill Ward's not doing it though.
All right. Well, I'm sure they're going to have more than enough people waiting to fill in for
Yeah.
that. So that would be an iconic CD. Well, good for them. And that's what's fun about music, man. I mean, even though I don't feel that, like, I want to go out and do tours and that kind of stuff, you're never too old to play and keep writing and keep doing what you're doing. And, whether you have an audience or not, you still do it for how it makes you feel. And I think it keeps you young. I have to say, I feel young. I'm not telling you how old I am, but you can pretty much figure it out from going through the discography. But it just keeps you young. It's very, very cool. And here are you. I don't know you until right now, and you stumbled across us. So, right now we've started a whole new friendship relationship, and that's what's cool about music. I mean, it just reaches across generations and apparently across the internet. That's what's kind of fun about that.
What is your favorite album of all time?
Pink Floyd Metal. If you never heard the Metal CD or the album, I actually have 2 copies of the album plus the CD. That was one of their first. That was one of the songs we learned as a band. Sweet Crystal was the entire 23 minutes of one side of the album, and it just is, to me, I just loved the vision of it, and that was early 70s, and it was just such a different type of sound that we decided that's the direction we wanted to go. So that to me is one of my favorites. Other than that, a couple of the Spock's Beard CDs. Well, I'll tell you, one of my favorite bands is Queensryche. I mean, my little brother introduced me to Queensryche. I'd never heard of them, and he got me the Empire CD. And I just went, oh my gosh, these guys are killer. And we immediately went out and saw their tour. And I went back and picked up all their old stuff, and I bought every single thing they put out since then. And they had great stuff and stuff that's maybe not as great, but I just love the power and the production and what they do. So I have to say, the Empire CD from Queensryche and, other ones of their stuff, Operation Mindcrime and stuff, those are stuff I listen to. I put them all into my player on my, my car. So it's on, endless repeats. a random play. So you never know which one's going to come up. But
Yeah.
all their stuff, Spock's Beard and all this good classic stuff. So those are some of my big still influences today.
All right, I believe that's all the questions that I have for.
Well, a question for you: what are you going to end up doing with this stuff?
This stuff is gonna go on my YouTube channel. I'm
Okay.
gonna place it on my website, everythingheavymetal.com,
Okay.
and pretty much I'm gonna put it on my links on my Facebook, my Twitter, everything I can link this to. I'm gonna link it to, and
Well, what fun! Thank you for doing that for us, man. Just don't make me look like a goof if you can help it.
no promises, but okay.
So always remember, in God we trust, yeah!